Stories are the most powerful thing on earth. They are literally life and death. Wars are waged based on the story of who is the hero and who is the villain. You are the result of a story your parents told each other, the one-night stand, the soulmate, and friends who became so much more. Life and death. So wouldn't you like to understand them better, these stories? How Story Works, an elegant guide to the craft of storytelling by Lani Diane Rich, demystifies stories and helps you understand why you love what you love, why you hate what you hate, and why prologues are almost always a bad idea. How Story Works by Lani Diane Rich. Available on Amazon in ebook, audiobook, and paperback form. Get your copy today.
Welcome to Still Pretty, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast from Chipperish Media. I'm story expert and unpaid substitute computer teacher, Lani Diane Rich.
And I'm film scholar and swim groupie, Noelle LaCroix, and we're here today to talk about Go Fish, the 20th episode of Season 2.
Oh, God. Go Fish aired on May 5th, 1998, and was written by partners in story and in love, Ellen Hampton and David Fury, and directed by David Semmel.
Husband and wife writing team, everybody say, "Aww."
Aw, isn't that sweet?
All right. So between us, we've seen the show roughly a zillion times. Most of that zillion is on Lani. So we are likely to talk about anything that happens in the entire series at any time. So if you haven't seen it and you're spoiler sensitive, maybe binge all of Buffy and come back to Still Pretty when you're done.
Definitely come back, though. It's well worth it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, we're looking for demons with high cholesterol. So let's go on patrol. In Go Fish, Buffy and the Scoobies take a night off to hang out at a beach party celebrating the swim team's winning streak. And one of the boys on the team sheds his skin and turns into a giant fish monster. So, you know, just another Tuesday.
Oh, God, it's so stupid.
At school, Snyder asks Willow to continue substitute teaching the computer class for free, and Willow happily agrees until he tells her to bump up the grade of Gage, one of the star swimmers who is failing the class.
That is wrong. A big, fat, spanking wrong. It's a slap in the face to every one of us who studied hard and worked long hours to earn our Ds.
When Buffy hangs out with Cameron, another swim team jerk, he becomes aggressive with her and assaults her in his car. She defends herself vigorously, but is still blamed for the attack because she's a girl, and look at what she was wearing. In the library, the Scoobies try to figure out what kind of demon they're looking for.
So we're looking for a beastie.
That eats humans whole, except for the skin.
This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the skin's the best part.
Any demons with high cholesterol?
Later, Xander witnesses Cameron turning into a fish demon and shedding his skin. And as the students turning into demons are the best swimmers, they decide it's a witch scenario. Someone is turning the swim team into demons to exact revenge. Meanwhile, Buffy decides she needs to keep an eye on the next best swimmer on the roster, Gage. Gage doesn't want her help until Angelus attacks him, and Buffy saves him.
Good night.
Hey! Walk me home?
At school, everyone's at the swim team meet when Xander comes out as the latest member of the swim team, keeping an eye on things from the inside. After the meet, Buffy hangs out by the locker room to protect Gage, and he starts screaming as one of his newly turned teammates attacks. Gage also turns into a monster, and Buffy fights both of them until the coach runs in and gets her out of the locker room, while the monsters dive through a grate into the sewers? Some kind of water pit? What the hell? Who the hell knows? That's a big damn grate for a locker room, but whatever. In the nurse's office, Giles and Buffy fill the coach in on what's been happening.
Well, the good news is that it would appear that none of your team actually died.
But the bad news is, they're monsters.
Buffy and Giles go on a hunt through the sewers looking for fish monsters, and it turns out one of the monsters is following them. Meanwhile, Xander hangs out in the steam room, trying to get the guys to tell him how they're getting the steroids or whatever that's made their performance so good, and they tell him.
Aromatherapy. It's in the steam.
Turns out the bad guy is the coach. He throws the nurse through the grate to feed the boys, and then he makes Buffy jump in so they can gang rape her. Xander finds the coach and knocks him out, then rescues Buffy from the fish monsters. When the coach wakes up and attacks, he falls through the grate and the fish monsters do something to him, and our only clue as to what is this.
Those boys really love their coach.
All right, Noelle. Oh, dear God. This is... Okay, I will say, I went into this with an open mind. Like, I've always hated this episode for lots and lots of reasons. And then I went into it and I was like, okay, you know, I mean, sometimes there are episodes that I won't like, and then I'll go back and I'll look at them and I'll realize that there's some value there. Like Reptile Boy, which everybody still yells at me for defending, but I defend that, all right?
Oh, yeah.
So here we are now with Go Fish, which I have always said is the absolute worst episode of Buffy ever. And I stand by that. So I'm curious, like, how do you feel?
Okay, so I have seen some Buffy episodes more than other Buffy episodes. Mm-hmm. And this is one I never got back around to. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty much reviled in the fan community. And, you know, okay, sure, there's some truly awful, truly vile patriarchal bullshit here.
Right.
But the bullshit feels appropriately gross and awful. And for the most part, it comes from the bad guys. And they're supposed to be gross and awful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that that's like, you know, our bad people don't have to be well behaved. Absolutely, they don't. Some of this patriarchal bullshit is completely rubber stamped. However, so that's usually where my problem comes in with it. But keep going. Keep going with your response.
But I guess for me, I will take straight up vile masculinity in my stories over watered down Shadow Xander stealth patriarchy any day.
Oh, yes.
That's just
Absolutely.
me. And Coach Patriarchy gets raped and or eaten by the fishmen at the end in a moment of reasonably satisfying poetic justice.
I don't think that necessarily, like, what he did was really, really bad. Right. And he obviously, you know, murdered the nurse and then threw Buffy in with glee, so that she could be gang raped. The boys have other needs. Whatever. Like, he's vile. I'm not going to say he's vile. I'm not going to say, but I don't think that, like, I don't believe personally in the death penalty. I believe in putting people in jail. And the thing is that he is human, right? He can be put in jail.
Ostensibly, yeah.
He killed the nurse. He threw the nurse into the thing, right? So, I mean, he could be put in jail. We can have the justice system deal with that guy. So this end for him does not feel like justice to me. It feels really gross and awful, and we treat it like it's funny. And I don't think that that's funny. I don't think that anybody getting raped is funny, or, you know, eaten. But, you know, but like
attacked something.
Right.
Yeah.
Like all of that, I don't find that funny, and that kind of bothers me. But, you know, keep going. I keep interrupting.
No,
your,
it's fine.
Your
I think
yeah.
for me, that is a monster story versus like the real world, you know?
Right.
I would not gleefully watch someone get raped and eaten by monsters.
Yeah.
And in the context of the story and this guy being gross and creepy and like apparently a super talented mad scientist. I mean,
guess.
Behind the scenes, who knows? But like, there is something very satisfying for me in a story when somebody does something really, really vile and then has to deal with the consequences in a really direct way. So you create the monster and then the monster eats you. Like, that feels...
Right, yes.
It feels good from a storytelling standpoint, and maybe that says something not so great about me. So I don't know.
I don't think so. No, but I get it. Like, you know, you create a monster and the monster eats you, fine. But I don't know, like, in this context, I just don't, like, it's all really gross. And he could have gone to jail. Like, he's not a demon. He's not like, you know, Buffy delivers justice to demons who cannot be handled by the real world. And that's kind of how that works. So when a human is thrown in there, even when the human's the bad guy, it doesn't really work for me. I mean, I don't want him getting off, scot-free, like the way that we did with Some Assembly Required, where we just pat the guy on the head.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, I'm so sorry you lost your brother.
Yeah.
You were killing, or not killing, but taking all these parts of women, whatever. So, I mean, but I think that somewhere in between raped and eaten by fish monsters and pat you poor thing, that there's somewhere in between there that's kind of like the sweet spot for this sort of thing.
Kidnapped by pirates is good.
Kidnapped by pirates is good.
Yeah. But I mean, speaking of the monster,
Yes.
I love this monster. I think the monster is straight up cool. I mean,
Okay.
I love a fish dude. I do. Yeah.
I love a fish dude.
I love a fish dude.
Has to go on like a t-shirt or something.
I will shape of water the house down. I am here for this. These particular fish dudes are large and they are pleasantly monstrous.
Okay.
They have face gills and they have catfish mustaches. I mean, they are super cool looking. And I don't know. I mean, again, this is maybe I have questionable taste, but I love a monster that bursts out from inside of a human body.
Okay,
It's
all right.
all of my gore. There's like a gore body horror. They're literal monsters inside kind of thing, and it scratches an itch for me. It scratches a body horror monster itch, and I like it. I like the way this monster does it. I mean, it's not a monster. It's I guess the guys have turned into whatever. It doesn't matter.
It's a transformation.
It makes no sense.
Right. But they're really good swimmers before they transform.
Right. I don't know.
But yeah.
Which raises the question, if you were to turn into an animal monster based on something that you're really good at, what would it be? What would it be?
I don't know. What's a lazy monster that watches movies and snarks about them? I don't know. I don't know that I'm good at anything
A monster that's good at snacks and napping. What is that?
Snacks and napping, which is the nicest kind of monster.
There you go.
I like that monster.
And I even kind of like the fishmen frolicking in the surf at the end. I'm like, it's goofy, and it's got that second unit sheen to it, where they
It sure
just went
does.
down to Santa Monica Beach at 5 a.m.
Exactly. Throw you guys in some costumes and just throw you in the ocean.
Pretty much.
Have a good
But
time.
I don't know. There's something about it for me that I'm like, oh, that's kind of great. They get to
Kind
go
of a
be in the
sweet
ocean.
brotherhood too. Well, because all of these fish monsters, the fish monsters are victims. This
Yeah.
is something that was done to them.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it appears that the team knew that they were being delivered steroids through the steam, which, by the way, does not seem like an efficient. Although I guess if you're magically turning people into demon fish monsters,
I love that that's where we're going to suspend our disbelief. We're like, no, steam room,
steam.
I don't think so. I'm like,
No, my disbelief is all over this shit. I am not signed on for pretty much any of it. Because it's all really really terrible. And here's the thing. I love that you like it. I love that you will defend it, because then I don't feel so bad for going off on this episode because I super hate it. And I mean, here's the thing. This episode is terrible for a lot of reasons, and only some of them are because of the disgusting patriarchal bullshit. There's horrible things it's her fault that he assaulted her. Look at what you were wearing, all of that stuff. But it's said by, like you said, it's said by our bad guys. It's expressed by our bad guys. And so because it's the bad guys, they can do that, and there's consequence for them in the end. Cameron gets beat up, then turns into a fish monster. They're all the guy who at first is mad at Buffy because Buffy stopped him from picking on Jonathan. And then, of course, Jonathan gets mad at her because she saved him because, oh, I can't be saved by a girl. I mean, oh, for
We've
fuck's
done that
sake.
beat. We've done that beat. We're done with that. Like, we need to be done with
apparently
that.
we're not.
I mean,
Because men can't be rescued by women because that's not how the world works. You know, all of it is so incredibly, incredibly stupid. And so then that guy who was a jerk, had the tattoo, who was a jerk, who was beating up Jonathan, like he turns into a fish monster, you know. And so that's like, all right, well, I guess you get what you deserve, although I'm not sure. Like, again, there's a spectrum of justice there. But the thing is, like, our characters are so inconsistently drawn, and it makes me crazy. No one, especially Giles, cares that Buffy was sexually assaulted. She comes into the library. She starts talking about her experience. She's pissed off. She's angry. And they all look at her like, what is your fucking problem? Even Willow. And I'm sorry, no. Like Xander, I can see being like, oh, this is a problem for you because I thought that was you. Giles not being upset that his analog daughter was sexually assaulted. He would be going after that guy with a mallet. And then, like, you know, Buffy is talking about her experience. And once again, we erase Buffy's trauma, not just by ignoring it. She's trying to talk about it, but by everybody, like, literally not giving even the tiniest of a fuck that this just happened to her. I mean, granted, she's incredibly strong. You know, she's able to defend herself. That doesn't mean that it's not a traumatizing fucking event. Well, you know, and we make it into this stupid joke.
And it is so gross how it comes to pass, too. It's not, he's not just this big, you know, meathead bro who's going to assault her in his car. He's like waxing poetic about the ocean and dolphins. And okay, I mean, okay, yes, like the ocean as our eternal mother and, you know, creator, destructor, whatever. I'm with you, but I don't want to hear it from Cameron. Like, I don't want like this. No. But he's so like, he's like, yeah, I just like to talk to the ocean. And then, are you wearing a bra?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And this whole thing is that, like, you know, because of these chemicals or whatever that they're getting, they're also becoming more sexually aggressive because we all know fish are super sexually aggressive. Like,
I guess they sort of try to hand wave away the aggression and the weird behavior as a side effect of steroid use. But it's never called out in this really, like...
But it's not steroids. It's
fish
monster transformation stuff. So, I mean, we presume it's steroids. We think it's steroids. And because of that, we would blame that, like, sexual aggression on the steroids. But the fact that it's not, that means that these guys are just sexually aggressive. Well, because boys will be boys? Like, what the fuck is that?
I guess. I mean, in making them better swimmers, it also makes them more
entitled
something.
to women's
like,
bodies.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I guess, like, you know, Gage has this whole thing where he's failing class and he doesn't care. And he knows, and Snyder comes in and tells Willow to give him a passing grade, you know, and so there's that. Like, he knows that there are going to be no consequences. The smug look that Cameron gives Buffy when everybody's like, what were you wearing? You know, that he just knows that because he's on the swim team and because he's bringing like a winning, you know, paradigm into Sunnydale High, that means that there are absolutely no consequences for their behavior, which, by the way, is not inconsistent with how the real world works. So, I mean, you know, fair enough. But it's so freaking weird. And then we have Willow, right? Willow, who has this glee at interrogation and intimidation, you know, with Jonathan.
Yeah.
And, like, that's not her style. Like, Willow is a leader. She's not an intimidator. She gets people to talk to her by empathizing and by inspiring. And so we have this whole thing where it's this joke where she's like, and then you did that. And she's doing this, like, you know, Law and Order SVU kind of interrogation bit. And Jonathan's just like, well, I peed in the pool, which is, you know, stupid, but whatever. The whole thing is just freaking weird. And Willow does not seem consistent with herself either. Then we have Cordelia in this moment where she thinks that Xander's a fish monster. And she's like, oh, no, we can still date, but I'd give you up if you wanted to see other fish. No.
I love that.
No. Cordelia definitely has a you must be this tall to get on this ride list, and not a fish monster is absolutely on it. She would be breaking up with him at that moment, but we have to show how a woman will stand by her man no matter what. And isn't Cordelia wonderful for looking past this thing with Xander? Whereas, had we reversed that situation and Xander thought Cordelia was a fish monster, it would have been this whole kind of like, it's not you, it's me. Like, we would have had that conversation. So, first of all, like, I hate that. At the end, Buffy being helpless in the water until Xander comes to rescue her, that suddenly our Slayer, who fights demons and is this massive fighter, is just completely helpless because she's surrounded by these fish monsters. And Xander has to rescue her? Like, she has to be rescued by a man in the end? What is that?
Well, and I don't buy that she struggles so hard to get up out of that hole. Even if Xander, needed to reach down to give her an arm, something to grab onto that was a little closer to her face height, whatever. But we have seen Buffy do a pull-up like 9 times at this point. We know she has the upper body strength. There's no reason.
And she can jump the whole way. She jumps the whole way. If his arm hadn't been in the stupid way, she could have grabbed the side of the thing. But we have to wait until Xander comes in and knocks out the coach and then grabs Buffy, that we have to have a man come in and save our titular superheroine. What the fuck is that? It's so incredibly stupid. And then we have the two of them watching, like the coach falls in and they sort of think about, oh no, please, let's save you. And then we have this, because we have that moment where the coach, threw the nurse in and she was eaten, and then he puts Buffy in the tank or whatever it is. I don't even know what that is with the big grate under the whatever. Makes her jump in and says, oh no, they've already eaten, but my boys have other needs, right? So we set that up. And then Buffy gets out, and then the coach falls in, and Buffy and Xander are watching, over the opening, being like, we could save him, or we could sit here and watch him be raped and eaten. And, I vote number 2, right? I mean, like, it's insane to me that and then we end on this, wow, those boys really love their coach, right? Which, of course, hints that what they're actually watching is this man getting raped by fish monsters. And when Buffy says that, Xander smiles. And I'm like, no. That's not, like, no, that is horrifying. And I'm sorry, like, I know the coach is terrible and I hate him. Like, I definitely hate him, but I don't think that you need to, like, have him be raped and eaten in order for that to be a thing. So all of it for me is just absolutely terrible. There is nothing. Well, okay, there's 1 or 2 things that I enjoy in this episode, but mostly they're just lines. Like, there's a couple of lines. There's you're going to think about that later and laugh, mister. Like, I like that. The demons with the high cholesterol. I think that that's cute, But overall, I have to say, this is absolutely a rant episode for me. Like, I cannot even. And just to let you all know, these rants come to you courtesy of Chipperish Media, which is entirely listener supported. So please go to patreon.com/Chipperish and throw in your $1 a month. You'll get more of these. I will rant for you about anything. You can make up a rant wheel and I will give you guys private rants if you go ahead and just join Chipperish and give us some support, because that is how we are able to do everything that we do. And for those of you who currently already support Chipperish, go ahead, go to the Patreon page and ask me to rant about something, and I will make a video and rant for you about whatever that thing is.
I can't.
As long as I hate it. As long as it's terrible.
I can't wait.
All right. So, now that we've gone through, like, the basic things, right, about this episode.
The basic horribleness. I mean, well, you talked a little bit about characters not seeming like themselves. And I just want to say, what the hell happened to Cordelia?
I don't even know.
This episode, I mean, okay, it seems like we're doing a sort of last-ditch effort to make her the shallow mean girl. Yeah. With the, like, certain people are entitled to special privileges. They're called winners. Mm-hmm. That's the way the world works.
Right.
But
she's the Ayn Rand of Sunnydale High. And And, actually, though, I don't think that that's terribly inconsistent with her, because she's telling the truth. I mean, she's not saying it's okay, but she's saying this is the way it is, and she accepts it. And, I mean, let's not lie to ourselves. That is the way that it is. Privileged people get additional privileges, and people who don't have, those particular privileges just get nothing, right?
Yeah.
And so people who are born to privilege, that will predict success more than anything, more than how hard you work. I mean, we like this whole idea, this Horatio Alger dream of America being a meritocracy. That is not at all. Look at our fucking president. That is not at all how this works. Like, if you're born to privilege, you get everything and everybody else gets nothing. And on occasion, somebody can scrape and claw their way up, but for the most part, those opportunities just are not available. So for Cordelia to kind of point this out, and that's just how the world works, doesn't necessarily bother me and doesn't really feel that inconsistent for me, because she is in the role of the truth teller, right? She's not going to worry about what's polite or the way things should be, but this is the way it is. Now, the fact that she is happily and enthusiastically co-signing that, I mean, I think there could be some questions about that.
Yeah. I do love Cordelia, though, calling out Abraham Lincoln on his hat. His stupid hat.
And his stupid hat and his mole or whatever. And then I also like the fact that she points out, when they talk about all men are created equal, right? They first say, Abraham Lincoln. And then she says, no, it's actually Thomas Jefferson. And she says, kept slaves, And there is not a small amount of sick irony to that. And I think that I like the fact, that she knew that he kept slaves, although apparently knew that he kept slaves, forgot that he was the guy who wrote all men are created equal.
Yeah.
So, whatever. But yeah, it is, I think it feels inconsistent. And I think it's possibly because of her enthusiastic co-signing of it, although she benefits from these things because she was born into privilege. So that's not great, but I do see her honestly saying this is the way things are. And we have seen her kind of make this sort of argument before. So while on the Ayn Rand scale, she's definitely tipping the top there, right? More than maybe she usually does. I'm not sure it's really inconsistent with her character.
I don't know. Maybe it's the bluntness of it came out. I was like, oh, we're doing this, Cordelia, and then we get this. We've been getting a little bit of this weird sexism from Cordelia. I mean, last week it was protesting the Sadie Hawkins dance because the girls have to ask the boys and pay and everything, which
I
mean, I don't know. We didn't actually end up talking about the Sadie Hawkins dance, and I don't think we need to get into it, but
we could talk about it now. Can we talk about anything but this episode? Let's go to a better episode and talk about the Sadie Hawkins dance.
We're good. But all right, okay, whatever. Cordelia upholding the status quo, I get it. But this week it's you ran like a woman, and she says it with so much smarm.
Right.
I just and her whole, I'm dating a member of the Sunnydale swim team, and Buffy says, no, you can die happy, which is just what?
Well, okay, I status is really important to Cordelia. I get that. The you ran like a woman thing, again, using simply being a woman as an insult. Being girly as an insult, is something that we can hopefully at some point get past. Yeah, this idea you scream like a girl, you ran like a woman, all of that kind of stuff, where like a woman, like a girl is inherently insulting.
Yes, because femininity is the worst. I mean,
because we associate femininity with weakness, which, by the way, not the case. I mean, let's not even go on the whole pussy thing. Pushes a thing the size of a watermelon out the size of a quarter, takes a beating, snaps right back into shape. No, I'm sorry. Pussy is the toughest fucking thing on earth. I will not hear anything else. So let's not even go. It's a ranty day. I'm sorry. It's
I love
just a ranty
it.
day for me. But but I mean, the thing is that like these are the ways in which like women become the patriarchy's foot soldiers, or like trained from birth. And these are the things. These are the associations that screamed like a girl, ran like a woman, like all of these things. This is part of the culture. And until you look at it and say, well, why is that a bad thing? Why is it a bad thing to scream like a girl? Girls, when they scream, get fucking attention,
Yeah.
And also, like, why is it bad to run like a woman? Women are fast. Women can run fast. You know why? Fucking patriarchy's chasing them all the time. So
Yeah.
So,
well, you got to run away from some fish dude who's gonna whatever.
Exactly. You're better off running like a woman because that is fast. We get out of shit like that, right? So anyway, like this whole thing is just it's incredibly dumb and I hate it, but it's also running like while at the same time Go Fish is looking at these incredibly gross things like Cameron attacking Buffy and then her getting blamed for what were you wearing, everybody ignoring, but like all of this stuff, like, we are pointing to how gross it is and we are making sure that like these guys are punished, they're turned into horrible fish demons, whatever. So we've got like that whole stuff, but even while we're doing that, we're still co-signing and rubber stamping a lot of that exact same bullshit with absolutely no self-awareness of it.
Well, I'm not
So,
gonna,
I mean, that's part of what makes this so frustrating for me is that even while we're saying, yeah, the bad guys, this is what the bad guys are doing, so it's okay, we can show it because they're bad and there are consequences. At the same time, we're getting it from everybody. We're getting it from Cordelia. Giles doesn't care that Buffy was sexually assaulted. Everybody's rolling their... Willow is rolling her eyes at Buffy trying to talk through her trauma. I mean, my God.
Yeah, that scene is really, really troubling.
It is.
It's really troubling. And Buffy, I mean, I'm not sure that she explains it away, but she does give us some reflection on like what is going on here with these systems, that when she talks about wins for the sports teams mean, awards for the school means, more power and glory and, all of the things.
And money. I mean,
money.
boosters give to winning teams
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. Sure.
And I mean,
yeah.
and I remember that from high school. I remember the way the sports teams were treated. Well, I should say the men's sports teams, because nobody gave a shit about women's sports.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody gave a shit. But, the men's sports teams got... there really was special attention paid to athletes.
Oh, yeah. No, and there still is.
Yeah.
Like my daughter's high school, you wouldn't believe the things that I've been in the principal's office more than once talking about the things that these student athletes have said and done. They grab women in the hallways in this school. I mean, seriously, like it was terrible, but they were student athletes, so they were allowed to do it. So, I mean, that's still happening. That was last year, the last time I was in the principal's office talking about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so
It's crazy.
That's a real thing. And I do like the way that Buffy acknowledges that, hey, like this isn't great, but it's going on because this is the system that we're in. But that whole, it's bad enough that we get that scene in is it the nurse's office after Buffy has broken Cameron's nose?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, this isn't a dance club.
No, yeah.
And,
Oh, God.
all right, whatever. Like, whatever. Villain's gonna be vile. That's in,
Right,
it's in the name. But then we go to the library, and like you say, everyone is just sitting there like, oh, God, Buffy, please.
So I'm treated like the baddie just because he has a sprained wrist and a bloody nose. And I don't have a scratch on me, which granted hurts my case a little on the surface, but meanwhile, he gets away with it because he's on the Aren't We the Most swim team, who, by the way, if no one's noticed, have been acting like real jerks lately. So, anything new with you guys?
And then Buffy corrects herself.
Yeah.
Buffy corrects herself. She stops talking about it and says, so what's going on with you guys, right?
And Giles says, nice of you to notice.
Nice of you to notice.
Something like...
This whole joke is based on the fact that Buffy's wrong and they're right to ignore her. Otherwise, that's not funny. And you know what? That's not funny.
It's not.
It's not a funny joke.
Well, I mean...
It's not a funny moment.
Yeah. Because, nothing happened. Like, it doesn't...
Yeah.
Cameron got his nose broken. That's what happened.
Because she was able to defend herself, that somehow it doesn't matter, that she was assaulted. Yeah, it does matter.
And I love that. I love it so much when he says, I'm not going to hurt you. And she says, oh, it's not me I'm worried about. I love that so much. I'm like, yeah, that's right. That's right. Because she's not, she's grossed out and creeped out in that moment, but she's not afraid of him. And I love that. And then we totally, I don't know, backpedal with her whole and it doesn't look really good for my case because I don't have a scratch on me, but and what?
Well, yeah, but I mean, here's the thing. Like, the physical assault of it is only part of that experience. Like, another part of that experience, like the trauma of that experience comes from somebody that you're spending time with who treats you as though you're not human, who actively dehumanizes you in that. And even though Buffy is able to physically defend herself, that dehumanization is still very much a part of this experience and continues into the nurse's office when she's told it's not a dance club. Look at what you were wearing. When Cameron, gives her that smug
smirk.
Look.
Oh my God. I want to punch
that
him
whole thing.
in his
And then
stupid
she turns
face.
to her friends, and her friends are like, what the hell are you complaining about? Right? Because she was able to physical is just part of it.
Right.
I mean, it is part of it, but it's just part of it. And even if physically after an attack like that, you're okay, you're able to defend yourself, it does not change the psychological and emotional trauma of being treated like you're less than human. By multiple people, some of them your friends. And then that's it for Buffy's, experience, for that trauma, for how that feels, because she was able to defend herself, so it doesn't matter. It does matter. And we erase Buffy's trauma so much throughout the run of this series because she's strong. But that doesn't mean that she's not emotionally and psychologically hurt by these experiences.
Well, and it extends out into the culture. I mean, this is rape culture where, if he didn't rape you all the way or whatever the fuck, we have all of this language around that kind of behavior.
And it's mitigating language. If he didn't finish, if he didn't jump out at you in alley or something, if you don't have a bruise, all of these things, if you knew each other, if you had a relationship,
oh God,
then suddenly it's not rape.
Yeah.
No, it's rape as soon as you say no and he keeps going. That's when it's rape. Anything that happens after that is what happened after that. But as soon as that happens, that is rape.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm so tired of that mitigating language, and we absolutely engage with that here, and that is absolutely rape culture.
Well, and we get this really gross moment from Buffy when she's thrown to the gill monsters, as a sexual offering, apparently. Yeah. And Buffy says, this is just what my reputation needs. I did it with the entire swim team. And I'm like, hold up. Yes. There is so much wrong in that statement alone. First of all, sexual assault is not sex. Sexual assault is assault.
And if you want to have sex with the whole swim team, then okay, that doesn't make this whole idea that her sense of purity, and the idea that people will be talking about her as impure because she's a slut and she slept with all oh my God, there are so many things wrong with that. I feel like Lucy and Ethel at the chocolate factory, they're all these things that are wrong that are just coming down the conveyor belt, and I cannot possibly grab them all. Yeah. That is terrible. That is terrible on so many different levels. I can't even begin to address all of them.
Not to mention, what the hell is Buffy's reputation? I mean, that she's weird. That she's this freaky weird girl. That girl gives me the creeps,
but now she's going to be a slut on top of all of that.
Apparently.
And God knows, once a girl is a slut, that's the thing, is that labeling women as sluts and whores is a way to justify raping them. They deserve it because they're sluts and whores and they want this sex. And I mean, it is basically just that. That is absolutely another part of rape culture. That once they're sluts and whores, they don't have human value and you can do whatever you want with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so infuriating. I cannot even. I hate this episode with my whole freaking heart. My heart is full of hate right now, Noelle.
So full of hate. So full of hate.
So full of hate.
Can we talk about something that I love in this
please.
episode?
Please.
Wentworth Miller is the cutest.
Oh my
He's
God,
a little
Wentworth Miller.
baby. He's
so weird.
baby.
He's so weird. No, okay, look, Wentworth Miller. Like, I like Wentworth Miller. I love him as Leonard Snart.
He's
I
amazing
love him being
as
over
Snart.
the top, like evil villain guy. I love him in that. He's definitely grown into like his thing. But the thing that's weird for me, and I cannot like whenever he's in a scene, it throws me out of the scene. And it's not his fault, really. Like Wentworth Miller, for those of you who don't know, is American. He was born to American parents, but he was born in England, and so he has this like weird accent that is very American in its pronunciation, but like English and British, and like the lilts and the inflection of the way that he says things. So when he gets attacked, and Buffy's like, he's was that a fish monster or whatever? And she's like, no, that was something else. And he goes, something else. And he just has this very British way of saying things. So like whenever he's speaking, I'm like, this is so weird. Like this is not a Sunnydale teen. Like it's just like it's like either be British or be American, but like he's in this weird middle space there. And he's gotten, I mean, since then he's gotten like it's fine now. Like when he it doesn't happen anyway. And he was young and I shouldn't be making fun of him for it.
He was young and needed the money. Is that what you're saying?
He was young. He needed the money, and look at the way he was dressed, man. But
we'll talk about that.
Let's talk about it.
No, but I actually really love his like weird. I shouldn't call it weird. He's Anglo fluid. His little like Britishisms.
Yes.
I really there's something about him. I really really like him. I mean, I love him as Snart on The Flash and Legends of Tomorrow. I mean, we open with, he gets this great line right at the beginning. Oh, dude, what is that foulness? Like, I'm just like,
I know, and it's so funny because the character he's talking to, his name is Dodd.
Yeah, Dodd.
Right? He's like, Dodd, dude, and I'm like, oh
dude,
man, and it's
dude,
right
where's
there,
my Dodd?
and they could have had something fun with it, but they didn't do anything with it. It just kind of happened, like So, oh my god! But he's adorable. He's adorable. I love Wentworth Miller. It just kept throwing me out whenever he
so
something else.
He's something else. He's so great, and that at the beginning, that outfit that he's wearing on the beach, he's wearing this like. He looks very GQ for a high school.
He is very GQ. He's
beach
stylish.
Like he's very, and I don't know. Okay, so Gage and Dodd are going for a nighttime stroll on the beach together.
Oh sure.
Is there something there? Maybe a little bit.
Just
a touch. Maybe I don't know.
Ain't nothing wrong with a little fish love.
Yeah. But he is so delightful, and I love his annoyance with Buffy. I mean, it's not fun because she's trying to protect him, but his like, oh really? When she's, I'm a swim groupie. Something about the smell of chlorine on a man. Oh baby.
And I love the way she just stops and she's like, okay, well and it's something like, I hate that she's like, well, my sexual, I don't know, wiles
sex
or whatever.
Appeal.
Wiles
I think my sex
appeal is on the fritz or whatever. And it's not about her sex appeal. It's about his sex appeal as a boy that smells like chlorine. Like, so, I mean, I didn't like that she put it on herself, but I like when she's straight with him and she's just like, look, this thing is happening. I need to protect you. Yada, 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 It just lets it go. Buffy is not necessarily great undercover, and I kind of think that's it's adorable. It's cute.
It's great. The Buffy's not good undercover, but
yeah,
Gage. I mean, I don't know. I love that when he smells. First of all, I love that this is a thing with this monster. That there's the smell. There's a horrible smell associated with the monster.
They react so strongly to it, and I kind of like it.
I like that there's a smell. I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes intuitive sense to me. But I love that when Gage is in the locker room and he smells it and then he checks his pits. I'm like, because like that is exactly what I would do. I'd be like, oh God, is that me?
That's always the worry.
You're like,
isn't it? Like, is that me? No, there is a run on the highway here. Nobody cares about this, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Because anything to stop talking about go fish. There is a run on the highway in Syracuse that's near like a water treatment plant or something. And in the winter, it's fine, you know. But in the summer, if you've got your windows open or anything, or plus it's hotter, so like the air, like, you know, sends those. So when you're driving on this particular run of the highway, it smells like the worst BO, like somebody's really not well BO, right?
Oh, no.
And I have been in Syracuse for like 30 years off and on. I have run that run of highway like I don't even know how many times. And every single time, the first time in the summer, when I smell that, I'm like, oh my God, is that me? Like I always presume that I have just suddenly smelled myself and turned foul. And every summer I do it. And then I'm like, oh no, I'm on this stretch of 690. So okay, it's fine. But I swear to God, I do that all the time. So that's my little foray away from Go Fish. Let's go back. I'll be back, Gage.
It's fine. It's fine. I don't know. I like Gage. I kind of feel bad for him when he turns into a fish monster because it looks like it really hurts. But I also like that it looks like it really hurts. Like I love that transformation. It's creepy as hell.
It is creepy. It's terrible.
Yeah, but
and then the skin bags.
Oh, I love the skin. And I love that they're steaming, so we know they're fresh. I mean, I guess the inside of the body, whatever. It's gross, but it's great. I love it.
It is.
I love it.
It's super, super gross. And I hate this episode. Are we done talking about it yet?
Well, all right. Okay. So we need to talk about what are you wearing? Because what are you wearing indeed?
Yes.
We get Buffy gets called on, she was leading me on. Look at how she dresses.
Right, because she's wearing a black
tank top. This is not...
If you can see her shoulder skin, then she's asking for it.
This is not even the most revealing thing we've seen Buffy wear. Like, that's...
Not the most revealing thing we've seen Willow wear. I mean,
it's not like that to me. And maybe that's meant to point up the whole ridiculousness of this idea that something you were wearing would provoke somebody into attacking you. No.
Right. Well, rubber stamping a million other terrible things, by the way.
I'm just like, I don't know. Like I'm like, she's wearing a black tank top. It's not even low cut. It's this like, and of course, none of that, she could be wearing a tube top and that would not be an invitation for sex.
Yes, exactly.
And
she could be wearing a shirt that you see through and you could see her bra. It is still not an invitation to be groped and to be raped. It is not. I don't care what she's wearing. And I get that we are absolutely, that is the point that is being made here, that it's gross. Yeah. Right?
But like,
I get it.
Try to dress a little more appropriately. Like what? Like it doesn't even make any sense to me. Like I'm not even like
right.
But of course that's how these rules work. That's how dress codes work. Like, but
well, dress codes they do.
We don't have anything to point to.
Shame women about their bodies.
Yeah, we don't have anything to point to. So, I guess don't dress so inappropriate. I don't know.
How is this your fault? Yeah,
gross.
Great. And also, like, I also have to say, I think that is insulting to men, and it makes me crazy. This idea that
ridiculous.
Men are just by nature monsters who cannot help themselves from raping women. That is not true. It's insulting to men. It expects way too little of men. And it encourages this predatory behavior because boys grow up looking at that thinking, oh, this is how I'm supposed to be. So there are boys and men who I think sometimes behave that way because they think they're supposed to, the same way that women, become the patriarchy's foot soldiers because they think they're supposed to, because that's the model that they've got, right? So, I mean, the fact that we tell men that they are monsters incapable of controlling themselves or being decent humans, like that's a message that is highly, highly damaging to men. I mean, like when you live with those messages all the time, I'm nothing but a terrible monster. Like, that's what I am because I'm a man. Like, that's a terrible, damaging thing for men to have to live with, too. So I hate it on every possible front.
It's the worst. It's the worst. Everybody just wear what you like and try really hard not to rape anyone. Like, that's just
exactly. And
I mean,
you're not rapists by nature. Men are not rapists. Men are not terrible by nature.
Are we sure about that? No.
Yes, I am absolutely 100% sure about that. I am sure that men are not terrible by nature. Men are made terrible by circumstance.
And that was a
People are made
terrible
terrible
joke
by
on my part because
No,
I
it's
can't
okay.
even.
It's okay. I'm just
even
too mad about
with
it.
the news. It's like, I mean, we're supposed to see, this is the problem. We're supposed to be able to escape into our entertainment, and then our entertainment is terrible. So.
Oh, God, I know. The entertainment is terrible. And then it reminded me, like, there's this one line that Buffy has when she's in the beginning, when she's looking out at the ocean with, I think it was Cameron, you know, and she goes, I was just going to say big and wet, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, oh, tremendously big and tremendously wet, like Trump talking about a hurricane.
Oh,
like,
God.
And then it just brought me back to the whole, like, our president is an idiot thing. And that also made me, I have so much anger right now. And it's like morning time, so I can't even get a drink. This is terrible. So this is the rantiest episode of Still Pretty, I think, to date.
We'll just scrap the whole episode and it's just breaking noises. You're just like, we'll just break things.
Smash.
It's fine.
Just smash things. I mean, seriously. All right. So I am sorry. And you're so sweet and you actually enjoy and appreciate some parts of this episode.
I do.
And I'm really, really glad that you do.
I do.
I'm really glad that you do. Because there are people out there who like parts of this episode and that's okay.
Well,
just because I hate it with everything in my being,
yes,
doesn't mean that there aren't things to also enjoy in it.
Like Xander in a Speedo.
Xander in a Speedo,
and
sure.
Because you all have added me on Twitter, I know that this is your thing, and I am so happy for you that this episode has blessed you. That has blessed you with this gift that is Xander.
Yes.
In a Speedo.
That is okay. And here's the thing. Like, I don't like this, turning the tables feminism, right? That we
reverse sexism and then it's okay. Yeah.
Exactly. So men ogle us and the only way for us to get equality is to ogle them back, right? Mm-hmm. But there is a difference. There is a difference between like ogling in a really gross way and like appreciating somebody who is beautiful and the ways in which they are beautiful, and I think that like in this moment we have Xander who's always kind of like treated like the schlub, right? That here he is, he looks good. Nicholas Brendan looks nice. He looks cool. He's on the swim team. So some of it, while some of it is absolutely ogling, and when we have him covering himself up with the swim paddles, you can see that is how he feels. Yeah. That he feels uncomfortable, and because he feels uncomfortable in it, that also is something that makes me, feel for him in that circumstance. But appreciating Xander's beauty and Nicholas Brendan's beauty is not necessarily a bad thing.
I always pan up from the knees though when I'm ogling someone. Yes.
I start right at the hairy little feet.
Yeah, you start
pan right up from that.
You just I like that moment. I think it's cute and funny, and I like all the girls just kind of, oh my God, Xander,
and being surprised.
But really, like it's such a clunky reveal because like
it is also weird because what it presumes is that the girls are looking at his feet first.
Yes,
right. And
like you do,
not paying attention, like not recognizing Xander until suddenly we pan all the way up, and there's like, oh, it's Xander. Like, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It's awkward. It's not believable. It's weird.
And I think we managed to get through all of last week's episode without talking about Xander at all. If I remember correct. I know.
There wasn't much Xander, yeah.
But we actually have some pretty good Xander in this episode. Yeah. We have some not so great Xander, but we have some pretty good Xander. I like that he overhears Snyder and the coach talking about the swim team, and he gets this idea himself to go undercover.
Yeah.
Because
I like
Snyder
that too.
says all he has to do is wear a bathing suit. And now, and I mean, I think it could have been played more for Xander wants all the perks of being on the swim team, right? And there's there's that awful line that I think you could read a couple of ways where he remarks on Buffy, you know, not paying attention because she's too busy being one of the perks of being on the swim team. So I don't think, I mean, I feel like we could read this as a move toward, you know, Xander wants the popularity or wants the attention, but within the context of the episode, and maybe someone else has seen something else, but to me it just looks like Xander is really trying to be helpful. Like he's trying to be, he is doing his Scooby duty, and I really appreciate that.
I like it too. Like he's taking initiative, you know, he's getting the thing done. He sees an opportunity to help out and he takes it. You know, I like that. I like that he goes in and he finds Buffy and he's there, you know, like, you know, with the coach and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't mind that he's there at the end. I mind that Buffy is helpless until he shows up. Like, that's ridiculous and stupid. But I do like, I think we get some fairly good Xander in this episode.
And we get some,
you know,
and we get some great Xander speak. You know what really grates my cheese? I love that. That is very Xander. That is very Xander.
Fun.
And when he corrects Cordelia, she says the creature from the Blue Lagoon. He says the Black Lagoon. Yeah. The creature from the Blue Lagoon was Brooke Shields. I love Xander's highly specific knowledge of cinema.
Yes, exactly.
You know, we get Amy Yip as a fantasy of his. We get Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, the Blue Lagoon. Xander has a very particular sense of
pop culture.
Yeah. It's kind of charmingly gross, but there's something about it that does it for me, and maybe it's,
I mean, and that's the thing. Like, Xander is charmingly gross. Like, and there's so much about Xander. You know, I love Xander. I absolutely love him. And God help me, Xander is absolutely like my catnip. Like, that is the guy that I always liked. I've always liked that guy. If a guy can make me laugh, that's pretty much it. I'm done, you know? And a lot of times the guys who make you laugh are also really gross and manipulative because they're charming, you know? So I think that a lot of this stuff comes, you know, through the vessels of the writers. And we get certain writers who we probably don't realize, you know, again, I've talked about terroir, which is like whatever's in the culture, you know, whatever's in the ground gets in the grapes, gets in the wine, whatever's in the culture gets into the person, gets into the writing, you know, and there are things that we say and things that we do and things that we put into our writing that we're not aware of, but it speaks to presumptions like run like a girl. It speaks to presumptions within the culture that we have failed to appropriately question. And I think we're in a space now culturally where we are starting to question like everything, and that can be overwhelming because everything is wrong. Everything I say, everything I think, all of these things that have been like given to me from the culture, and I have to pick every single one of them up individually and look at it and think, who does this hurt, you know? Because we haven't cared about that traditionally, you know, who it hurts. As a matter of fact, I think some of these things are deliberately built in order to oppress and hurt people. And that's a whole other discussion. Long and the short of it is that Xander, a lot of times, I think who the character is intended to be and is deliberately written to be is one thing, whereas, and again, that's how Shadow Xander comes in, right? You know, that this is unintentional stuff that gets into like the Xander cake, you know, if I can just hop from metaphor to metaphor, like, you know, why not? It's my goddamn show. I'll do what I want. So I think that like we've got this weird mix with Xander. So like on the one hand, I love him. I love that guy. Like that guy is my guy. That guy is my catnip, you know? But there's so much stuff that comes in with Xander that rides in this shadow space that I think is unintentional, you know? And because of that, it's like, well, I like who Xander is meant to be. You know, what we end up getting is different, weird, and gross in a lot of ways. But at the same time, like, I like who he was meant to be. And we do see the guy he's meant to be a lot, but we can't just ignore the stuff that gets in there anyway, and that does become part of Xander. And then there are things that Xander does, and we're going to be seeing this, of course, next week in Becoming, that are deliberately Xander and that are not great, you know. And when we see him with Anya, Jesus, he's the biggest asshole with Anya. I can't even, I want to smack him during that whole relationship. But that's a whole other discussion that we'll get to, you know, season 4 and beyond. That's it's tough.
Okay.
So Xander's complicated, but I think there's a lot of really good things about him. And I think that we get good Xander, and especially we have the opportunity here that we can read Xander in a positive light without really losing, you know, anything, losing our integrity as humans, you know. All right, so I think that we have argued the patriarchy pretty much.
Yeah,
through this
I mean,
whole
it's the whole damn episode. If you didn't watch the episode, it's the whole thing. It's all about It's all about how, you know, men and the men in charge get to make the decisions and fuck everyone else. I mean,
yeah. The boys will be boys, fish will be fish. It's all terrible.
Yeah, boys will be boys unless they're fish. In which case they still have needs? I'm sorry.
In which case they're still boys.
Yes.
They're still boys. So yeah, it's all really gross.
Fun.
And I think that we have covered the patriarchy. So let's move into girl power.
Oh boy.
Where did you see girl power?
Oh boy. I mean, I live for Buffy slamming Cameron's face into his steering wheel.
Oh yes. I want a GIF of that just plays over and over and over again. Oh. Maybe I'll make one.
But so much of the strength of our female characters really gets undermined in this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I like Willow loving to teach. Of course, you know, loving to be unpaid. Yeah. I'm presuming they're not paying her for this. And he's just asking her to, like... Yeah.
This is Sunnydale has the worst PTA ever. That's all I like.
Oh, no, seriously.
Clearly.
It's just it's a complete mess. There's nobody who knows computers in all of Sunnydale. But anyway, but I like that Willow is teaching. I like that she is excited about that work. I like that, you know, he asks her to change Gage's grade, and she has a real conflict with that, and she's like, "This is not okay," you know.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, "Oh, okay, I guess a person in position of power told me to do this, so I guess I got to do it, and it's okay." Huh? She's like, "No, that's not right," you know. And I like that. I like that about Willow. But yeah, there isn't a lot of girl power in this episode. Yeah. But we got some. She slams his face against the steering wheel, and I think that's fairly satisfying.
It's not me I'm worried about. I mean, she's perfectly capable of protecting herself, and she's grossed out by him, but she's not afraid of him, and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. I like that too. All right, so Noelle, what is your favorite part?
I love the body horror moment of the monster bursting out of Gage. I mean, it's a great effect. The hand, the crazy clawed. They have claws.
Awesome.
It's so neat.
Yeah,
it's really.
I don't know. They're fishy claws.
They're fishy claws. Do fish have claws?
Mm-hmm. I don't think they've like, you know, fins.
Maybe some have claws. Someone is screaming at their podcast.
They're like lobsters. Lobsters are basically ocean scissors. That's what they are. Yeah, I don't know.
I thought lobsters were ocean cockroaches.
I've heard that too.
Okay.
But they're delicious.
They are delicious cockroaches, which raises the question, are cockroaches delicious?
I think we can save that question. Let's put that on a shelf and look at that never. My favorite part is just that whole run with Buffy where she's like, you know, we're looking for demons with low cholesterol, and then Giles just stares at her and she says, "You're going to think about that later, mister, and you're going to laugh." Yeah. And I'm like, Every time I think about that line, it always makes me laugh. It is adorable. I love that Buffy is acknowledging her sense of humor.
Yeah.
You know, that she's funny, because like we always talk about, Buffy is so, you know, she's beautiful and she's strong and she kicks ass and she's athletic and she can kill a vampire or two, you know, and like she has all of these things, but we never talk about how funny she is. We never talk about how smart she is, you know, and I like that we're acknowledging that she's funny.
And she's yes-anding Xander. I mean, teamwork.
I know.
The skin's the best part.
I love it. A little yes and,
yes
right?
and.
That ever kill anybody? I love it.
Oh my God. All right, that's it for today. We made it through Go Fish.
Yay! Oh my God.
Well, Lani takes the rest of the day off.
Right.
You can join in the discussion on Twitter by following Lani at LaniDianeRich and me at Noelle Loud and using the hashtag StillPretty. You can also visit the Chipperish forums. Go to chipperish.com, click on forum, and join in the fun.
Chipperish Media is entirely listener supported, and we need you. Just $1 a month gets you access to our new podcast, Still Chipper, where your intrepid hosts talk about what's delighting them this week, and the Discord chat with me and Noelle and all the Chipperish patrons, who all know that there is no such thing as spending too much time with Giles. For those of you who remember that as a reference from this terrible episode. Visit patreon.com/chipperish and throw in $1 or more. Our next stretch goal means Still Pretty t-shirts, and you know you want one.
And I know everybody thinks that dollar doesn't make a difference, but it really does. If you've got $1,
it does.
If you've got $1, we want your dollar. It really helps us.
Just $1 a month.
Really, really helps us keep the show going.
Yeah. It's a huge thing. I'm taking on more and more co-hosts, and I pay you guys. So like, I need
You're
you
just
guys
collecting co-hosts. I love it.
Exactly. And I want more co-hosts. So send us some money so I can afford to hire more people.
You can also show your support for no money, should you have no money, or if, whatever.
I'm entirely understand. You do what you want with your money.
You do what you want.
Is your choice.
But I really...
Throw us $1, please.
A really great free way to support the show is by giving Still Pretty a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or by telling your friends about the show, or talking about us on social media, or acknowledging Buffy's freaking trauma, because seriously, what the hell, people?
I know, my God. Anyway, we will be back next time with Becoming Parts 1 and 2, the 21st and 22nd episodes of Season 2, and I am going to... I yelled and ranted through this episode. Next week, it's just going to be the sounds of me weeping. I cry so much. Becoming Parts 1 and 2 kill me inside. Until then, you're going to think about that later, mister, and you're going to laugh.